The last video looked at travel culture and the vast distances animals traverse around the world. This video will look at the importance of culture and social learning in animals' lives as they mature and have to find partners, build homes, and raise families. It will look at vocal culture, courtship culture, and building culture, as well as how individuals' preferences for partners, homes, and habitats are culturally influenced and socially learned. The animal world is a multicultural place, awash with different accents. Some of the earliest evidence for cultural transmission in animals came from the realization that animals in different regions have different dialects or accents. Like humans, parrots have distinct vocal dialects, and like humans, they learn those dialects from their family and friends. City mallard ducks in London have different accents from those in Cornwall. Cows in southwest England have different accents from those in West Country. European and American fish have different accents, and monkeys have an accent depending on where they live. Just like us, animals recognize foreigners by their accents. To dolphins, the dolphin pods of Cardigan Bay would sound distinctly Welsh. Individuals identify members of other groups and members of their own group by their accents. And they're aware of their own accents. Monkeys change their accents to sound more like the locals. And penguins adapt their accents to sound more like their friends. Birds prefer mates with the same accents as them. And recognition of geographic variations can help birds restrict their selection of mates to local partners. Like us, animals have the accents of their cultural community because they learn to speak and sing from their community. This is known as vocal culture. And this cultural phenomenon has now been recognized in thousands of species. Complex vocal learning, the capacity to imitate new sounds, underpins the evolution of animal vocal cultures and song dialects. Animals as distinct as hummingbirds and humpback whales share well-developed vocal learning capacity in common with humans. Animals learn traditional songs from parents or tutors. Songs are an integral part of their culture, used to transmit important information about environments and territories, social information, and information about the signalers, such as their health, reproductive status, and emotional state, as well as attributes such as prowess, motivation, and quality. The quality and content of songs determines mating success. Young birds exposed to their cultural songs choose the same songs in partners. Mating patterns and preferences can be influenced by the communicative culture in which young individuals develop, meaning animals choose mates based on their social background, and they learn how to court the individuals they're interested in. The largest body of evidence for learned courtship traits derives from the study of birdsong. Studies have linked social learning and transmission of vocal signals to mating success, providing arguably the best examples of communicative cultures of sexual displays. The communicative culture of courtship, which extends from singing to dancing, is dynamic and interactive. Males alter their moves based on feedback from females. Courtship singing in songbirds is often accompanied by gestural displays, similar to human vocalization or music that solicits body movements. We investigated the degree of singing-dancing temporal coordination in males, as well as individual variability in dance sequences in males and females. The results showed that there was a strong relationship between the hopping and the production of song notes in males, which was affected not only by song learning, but also by the identity of the female that received the courtship display. Courtship displays communicate different attributes. A penguin song says, "I'm a good dad," while other performances can demonstrate health, virility, charisma, coordination, or sophistication. Young males inherit those dance steps from their fathers, then refine them through practice and watching adults. Many male birds spend most of their time preparing and performing their mating rituals. Less obvious but equally important are the watchful females. It's ultimately their choices that decide which dances reach the next generation. Culturally desirable traits evolve because individuals choose them. Animals choose mates based on a combination of factors, from innate preference, such as appearance, scent, or personality, to social performance and courtship skills. Female and male animals often choose mates based upon the complementarity of their courtship behaviors and preferences. The importance of this fact on the evolutionary dynamics of populations has long been appreciated. What has not been appreciated is the role that social learning might play in the transmission of systems of courtship behavior across generations. It has become increasingly apparent that both mate preference and sexual signaling often require cognitive processes which encompass flexible use of information. The evidence is not limited to male sexual behavior, and female plastic sexual behavior associated with courtship has also been reported across taxa. Examples include the elaborate displays of a variety of lekking bird species, where complex dance routines are performed on dedicated display arenas that are cleared or built by males as performing stages. Moreover, learning of courtship traits has been included among the assumptions of a number of theoretical models of sexual selection and speciation. We focus on three specific components for which growing evidence for learning is now available: postural displays, choreographies, and construction of display arenas, e.g. bower building behavior in bowerbirds and crater building in cichlids and pufferfish. Evidence for such cultural transmission commonly invokes spatial patterns of local similarity, with neighboring individuals or populations appearing similar to each other. We found that bowers built by male spotted bowerbirds within a single population showed fine-scale similarities between neighbors in the decorations displayed on them. We suggest that these similarities are products of local tradition, either culturally transmitted by neighboring males who regularly inspect neighbors' bowers, or as localized responses to variable individual female preferences. Bowerbirds don't just learn how to build their nests by observing older males, but also by observing who is having the most success. Winning over mates can be a lengthy process, and courtship can have many stages. Males may woo mates with multiple gestures such as claiming territory, feeding, or preening. In reality, displays may consist of multiple interacting components, each with varying degrees of dynamism and flexibility depending on the timescale over which they are adjusted. From very rapid movements during a single courtship event to seasonal or even longer-term changes. The mechanisms by which an individual acquires its courtship behaviors and preferences are important to know. But an equally important issue for questions of cultural transmission is how those traits, once acquired by individuals, are maintained in populations. Preferences may come from the number of individuals exhibiting those preferences and their social standing. For example, researchers found that preferences for certain food types in Norway rats were influenced by the number of social models in the local population, exhibiting those preferences. Other researchers have found that the number of tutors, social models, and the number of bystanders could influence an individual's ability to learn a novel feeding technique in pigeons. The relative numbers of social models and naive individuals in a population may influence the transmission of systems of courtship behavior as well. One way to see what others are doing and what their preferences are is to attend public gatherings. Birds and mammals stage events known as leks, where they gather in specific locations to display and compete for mating opportunities. This often involves males showcasing their physical prowess or displays. In birds, males aggregate near hotspots where females tend to go. Traffic has been observed to be concentrated around leks, bathing sites, and fruiting areas, with males aggregated near the most visited fruiting resources. Groups of females visit mating areas occupied by many courting males. Leks thus provide an excellent venue for looking for social influences on mate choice decisions. Females have the opportunity to observe the mate choices of others and choose similarly. Female preferences are dynamic, and mate choice is both culturally influenced and socially learned. Assessing and choosing among potential mates can be a demanding task. Innate preferences, individual experience, behavioral cues such as courtship vigor, winning intrasexual contests, acquiring territory or nuptial gifts, or engaging in parental care may play a role in mate choice. One means of managing all this information and filtering out the unimportant from the critical is to learn about potential mates by observing the behavior of others. Mate choice copying is a type of social learning that involves updating mate preferences after observing others' choices. Mate choice copying has been documented in birds, fish, and mammals. Young females are conceivably inexperienced, and although they may possess innate preferences, observing and copying experienced females' behavior can be of benefit. Who is popular and which traits are fashionable is information that is socially learned and spread culturally. Individuals who are known to be successful with the opposite sex become more popular. In some cases, the probability that a female will mate with a male increases if she knows he has engaged in sexual behavior with another female. Female decisions can be influenced by what other females like. Researchers found that female rats found male rats more attractive when they knew the males had recently engaged in sexual activity with another female. When female cowbirds heard other females chattering in response to a male's song, those males became more popular than those whose songs received no female chatter. And when female zebra finches saw that males with colored leg bands were more popular with other females, colored leg bands became the popular fashion. Our findings are consistent with the conclusion that female zebra finches' mate preferences are altered by public information. Our study implies that mate preferences can spread rapidly through populations by social mechanisms. There is increasing evidence that animals can acquire mate preferences through the use of public information. Social learning is an integral part of mate choice, and social factors from infancy into adulthood can play a significant role in modifying and shaping mate choices. Individuals acquire preferences for traits in partners from early encounters with parents, siblings, and friends. In addition to using parents as role models when choosing a mate, birds may use social information gained later in life, such as public information and eavesdropping, by observing the mating choices of other individuals. Social learning doesn't just influence how individuals choose mates, but also where they choose to live. Where they choose to raise their young, how they build their homes, and how they select habitats. Social learning early in life is important in habitat selection. And later in life, animals use public information to decide on the best habitats for raising their young. Birds monitor the breeding performance of others in choice of habitats and nest sites, and the success they are having with raising young. According to the public information hypothesis, some animal species may monitor the current reproductive success of conspecifics to assess local habitat quality and to choose their own subsequent breeding site. Information is power, even for birds. Researchers report that flycatchers decide where to nest and whether to return the next year, based in part on knowledge of their neighbor's reproductive success. Choosing a good breeding site may mean the difference between begetting many offspring or none at all. Researchers who wanted to know whether birds make use of information gleaned by watching their neighbors found spying on nearby nests helps birds decide where to settle down. Just as in human culture, the trending hotspots, such as where to live, where to hang out, and where to meet others, are always changing. When a flock of scarlet macaws lands in a tree in the Amazon rainforest, they may use one gathering area for months. It's like the hot club where everybody's going. Then, suddenly, another spot is hot. There's a lot going on at the cultural level. Once desired living locations can fall out of demand due to discovery by predators, overcrowding, problems with neighbors, or other factors. Who their neighbors are factors into their living decisions. Researchers discovered that marmosets eavesdrop on their neighbors and judge them accordingly. The findings indicate marmosets aren't just passive observers, but make decisions about others based on what they hear, just like humans. In making the decision on where to live, both partners have to agree to the decision. Before birds can settle down to start a family, they have to find a place to live. Whether that's up in a tree or in a constructed nest box, the responsibility for finding a good nest site typically falls to the male, though the female's opinion can make or break a decision. The male will kind of go from one nest site to the next, and they'll check it out together. If the female doesn't like it, she'll leave. In which case, the male will usually have to coax her into house hunting again. Once they have decided on a place to live, they have to decide how to construct their home. This decision is also culturally influenced. Animals build nests like the ones they were raised in. Females approve nests based on the ones they were raised in. The final arbiter is female approval. And males will go out of their way to build nests that females approve of. Making a home for their young is an integral part of the courting process. In couples who make their nests with rocks, males will pick out the most attractive pebbles they can find and gift them to the female to place on the nest. The culture of nest building has led to some amazing architecture, which is constantly evolving. Nest building is not just instinctive, but is a skill that birds learn from experience. Researchers demonstrated that birds in Botswana built multiple nests out of grass during a breeding season, and that individual birds varied their technique from one nest to the next. They also saw that some birds build their nests from left to right and others from right to left. Also, as the birds gained more experience in building nests, they dropped blades of grass less often, implying that the art of nest building requires learning. If birds built their nests according to a genetic template, you would expect all birds to build their nests the same way each time. However, this was not the case. The birds displayed strong variations in their approach, revealing a clear role for experience. The role of culture, learning, and experience in nest building is seen in the many different ways individuals from the same species create different homes using different locations, materials, and styles. Facing the unique challenges of different environments and using the resources they have to create their own unique homes. Their creativity and ingenuity is seen in the different ways they solve problems, such as safety, insulation, weather resistance, security, pest control, and even techniques to keep the neighbors away. For birds who nest in holes and hollows, competition for nests can be fierce. Birds know that predators often lurk in these holes. And some birds manipulate this knowledge to scare other birds from the neighborhood. Researchers discovered that birds scatter feathers around the holes to make it appear as though a predator has attacked the residents inside. The goal of this mock kill site is to scare other birds away, and it works. Animals learn what works and what doesn't by observation. One source of public information may be the enduring products of others' behavior, such as discarded tools or vacated nests. To find out if animals learn to build nests by observing other nests, researchers examined whether observation of a nest affects the material birds prefer when they construct their first nest. The results showed that both observation of a nest and a change in environment can influence the material choices of novice builders. For naive animal builders, construction artifacts can be information resources for learning about potential construction material. There is compelling evidence that the ability to choose structurally more appropriate materials becomes refined with experience. As nest construction appears to rely on knowledge of the structural properties of appropriate nest material, it may be a useful system for investigating the role of cognition in material choice. Researchers found that as a result of their building experience, birds learn to choose stiffer string to build their nests and to avoid building with the more flexible string type. Building experience led to their learning about the structural properties of the different string types. Learning from experience with different materials has allowed animals to use the resources available to live in different environments. For example, squirrels, one of the most widely disseminated mammals in the world, found on all continents except for Antarctica and Australia, have become experts at home building because they learn by watching others, not just other squirrels, but also other species. Squirrels may have leaf nests or dens in the ground and in trees, depending on their breeding season and how many other squirrels are in the area. They forage both in trees and on the ground to find materials for nesting. The squirrel begins the nest by weaving a platform of live green twigs. Next, squirrels create more stability by packing damp leaves and moss on top of the twig platform to reinforce the structure. Then a spherical frame is woven around the base, which creates the outer shell. The inner cavity of the nest is lined with lots of layers of soft materials, such as moss, feathers, grass, leaves, shredded bark, and pine needles.